All right, good evening, guys. On the Rebel 11, Steve's Adventures, and Richard Tenere Traveler. Good evening to all. Guys, please let me know, Safki as well, how is the video and audio, and then we can start the stream. I'm glad that you came very fast. Very good on the Rebel 11. Excellent. Sounds and vision good from Richard, Safke, all good. Excellent, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming tonight. It's an interesting topic, at least interesting to me. I hope that will be interesting for you as well. And we all together will be able to make something more valuable for everyone who is interested from traveling abroad, and will bring enough useful information on the topic. As usual, guys, at the beginning, I will have my speech here on the left side. It's not that long, but I will cover the most important topics like papers, time, money, weather forecast, languages, political situations. I'll talk about Europe and outside of Europe. I'll discuss points like temporary import declaration, carnet du passage, and many more points that are all connected to traveling abroad with a motorcycle. And after I finish, as usual, I hope that you will have enough information to add or many questions to ask me about different topics to have the chance to explain even more with more details. Let me turn off this sound here, so I don't want interruptions during the stream. Okay, the sound is off. So as usual, guys, bear with me until I finish, and then we can go to the second part of the stream, which will be mostly your comments and your questions. At the moment, I can see 7-8 people here. I can see on the Rebel, Steve's Adventures, Safke, on the Safke, and Sam Hill. Good evening, Sam. I'm glad that you came tonight. Okay, so Sam, I just explained to everyone what the way of the stream or the order of the stream will be. First, I will finish everything that I want to cover on this topic, and then I can give you more than enough time to add more information or questions, as usual. So let me first finish with these guys, and then we can talk about it. All right, a motorcycle trip abroad. What you have to know. There are many things that are not so clear for people who never traveled with the motorcycles abroad. And in this live stream, I hope to cover them all. If I forget something, please excuse me. Just ask me in the comments and I will try to answer it. Alessandro Pozak. Hello, Alessandro. Buonasera, Alessandro. Come stai? From Italy. This live stream will be very useful for everyone who has ideas to travel with a motorcycle abroad, or at least this is what I believe right now, and I hope it will be like this, of course, with your help. Always appreciate all of your help, all of your addings or your questions, so keep it for now. We're gonna discuss it later. Ghost Rider, good evening, Ghost Rider. You came just on time. I just started. So once again, this live stream will be very useful for everyone who has ideas to travel with a motorcycle abroad. What is the difference? In your home country, everything is clear, right? You know everything about your place, what currency, what roads, what conditions, what road, and everything. Everything is clear when you travel only in your country, especially if you already done a few trips. If you never traveled before, even in your country, it's going to be different. But now we're talking about more experienced people who already traveled with their motorcycles, and now they are looking for something more adventurous or different to travel on a foreign country, maybe different continents. That's why we're going to cover many different topics tonight. Ricardo Vares from Portugal. Hello, Ricardo. Good evening. Please bear with me until I finish the stream, and then we can discuss everything. So as I said, when you travel at your home country, everything is clear, or at least everything. But when you need to go abroad, the things are a little bit different, and you need to prepare yourself with a little bit more information before you decided to go there. And I will split this stream into two different parts. The first is going to be about the rider, and the second will be about the motorcycle. because you're together, but you need different type of preparations when you decided to go abroad. I hope that this makes sense to you guys. So what does the rider need or the traveler need before it goes to a different country? Number one, it needs a specific papers. And these papers are, number one, passport. Of course, passport is very important. If you plan to travel abroad, you're gonna need your passport. With one exception, if you're from Europe and you decided to travel only around Europe, then only the ID card that you have in your country will be more than enough to travel everywhere. But if you decided to cross borders, real borders, then you need your passport, international passport. Make sure that your passport have enough valid period and enough blank pages on it. Because when you're crossing borders, they will ask you for a blank page on your passport to put the stamps over there, especially when you're outside of Europe. And if your passport is already jammed with so many stamps or so many things from everywhere around the world, this will be a problem. But I guess for people who are coming to see this stream or got questions on this stream or looking for information, their passports will be with enough blank pages, at least for now. Then you're gonna need eventually visas. Ghost Rider. Fun fact, I had the Revit Echelon GTX pants and jackets for about 10 months. And the jacket was leaking in September. The pants were also falling apart. Revit gave me new one, maybe production mistakes. Good to know that. Yeah, this is one of the benefits when you buy a Gore-Tex suits. They usually comes with a lifetime warranty. It might be some kind of production failure. Please bear with me until I finish, and in the end of the stream, when I finish all of this, we're gonna discuss any other problems or questions that you might have on this or on different topics. Ghost Rider, please bear with me to finish this, because now I will lose my mind or my ideas. So first you need passport, and then you need eventually visa or visas if you plan to visit a multiple countries, and or maybe you need to if you need only one. If you plan to visit only one country, you need one visa. But if you plan multiple countries, let's say trip around Central Asia or around many different countries, you're going to need many different visas. And this is one very important topic that it will take a little bit time until I cover it, but please bear with me. So it's very important to know exact dates of your trip. And this is a little bit tricky when you have a multiple countries. For example, when I was going to travel around Central Asia, or the former stans, former Soviet Union republics, they were all together 7 visas that I made. And each one of these countries asked for a specific dates. You're going to enter the country when, and you're going to leave the country when. And each one of these visas was for 1 month period. And I need to calculate exactly when I'm going to be on that country to be able to receive the visa. Because if you have all the visas for the same period, let's say from June until from the beginning of June until the end of the June, for 1 month period, you cannot cross them all. So you have to split the dates very properly, very precisely. And that's why when you apply for your visa, they will ask you, okay, in what date you plan to enter the country? And you have to say, let's say, 15th of June, I plan to be in Tajikistan, for example. And then you have to plan how many days you will spend in Tajikistan, let's say 7 days, and then the next visa will start after 7 days period. So you have to be very careful with the dates that you ask or apply for your visas, because once you get the visa, you can't change it anymore. If you don't have the visa with the specific dates, they not let you to go to the country. You cannot just go to the border and say, yeah, I have visa, but I made a mistake with the dates, and if I can go just like that, please let me go just like that. Of course, this is not possible. They have strict rules, and even if you have only 1 day, a couple of hours, they're not gonna let you go in. This is happening with me on the Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, no, it was on Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan border. The visas that I've got in Turkmenistan finished, but the next visa that I've got for Uzbekistan was 2 days later. So I was left 2 days without any visa. One finished, and the second was still not started. And it was because I went to the place a little bit earlier than I expected, and this is how I made the mistake with the visa. A small mistake, but real mistake. So I was forced to go to the local embassy and make another one visa just for these 2 days that I've got, because without visa I cannot stay in the country. So that's why you have to be very careful with the moments from the dates of entry and the dates you're gonna leave the country. Very important. Make notes, calculate it properly. Always have at least 2-3 days in advance, because when you travel with a motorcycle, you cannot really precisely calculate the time or the days that you're gonna spend in the country. It's always good to have some backup to be able to move forward or backward a little bit. This is all about the visas. How you apply for visa? Simple procedure. You go to the specific country embassy with your passport and all the documents that they required. What they will be, I cannot tell you right now, because every country will have a different requirements. If you come from big and powerful country like the USA, UK, Germany, or many more, you might not even need a visa. But because I am from Bulgaria, third world country, they still consider it like a third world country. It was very problematic, and I needed 7 different visas when I was crossing this area. And in each one of these embassies, they asked for different documents. For some, was enough to have my passport. For others, were needed some more documents, like registrations where I live, documents from work or bank accounts or whatever. When I applied for my Australian visa, I needed 12 different documents. This was the most difficult visa that I ever applied. 12 different documents, and they asked me basically for everything. They did not ask only for my underwear. Anything else was exposed. Bank accounts, company bank accounts, personal bank accounts, invitation letters from the people who invite me in Australia, who is covered the cost, and all of that stuff. So many different documents. That's why I said every country or every embassy will ask for different documents, and you can read and find about all of this in their websites usually. So when you have all of these documents, you apply to your visa, and always keep in mind that if you cannot do it online, now many countries got the options to have this online visa. But some of them will still require your physical presence. So you have to go once to this embassy to apply for your visa, pay all the taxes and bring all the documents, and then you have to go once again to receive the visa, probably after a week or after a month, whatever the period is. And if this embassy is not in your hometown, let's say you live in one part of the country, but the embassy is only in the capital, you have to travel to the capital to apply for visa, and then you have to travel once again to pick up the visa. Always keep in mind all of this travel dates or days that you're gonna need to cover all of this, and all of this need to be part of your preparation for traveling. So if you plan next year to have a long trip in different country that require visa, you cannot start your preparation in the last week. You need time in advance to prepare all the documents in advance. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to make it. I hope that you understand the idea behind all of this right now, guys. Okay, then when you apply for visa, you have to be very careful. What kind of visa do you need? Single or multi-visa? 1 month or 2-3 months, whatever you need it. For example, in all of these countries that I told you in Central Asia, all the visas that I needed were single. So I can use the visa only once to go into the country and leave the country. But if I want to go back to the country, I cannot do it. But in some other countries like Russia, for example, I've got 3-month visa, and it was multi-visa. So I can have many entries and many exits from the country. A few years ago, when I was going to Mongolia, I got a Russian visa for 1 month, but it was with 2 entries, because I need to cross Russia, go into Mongolia, and then get out of Mongolia and enter Russia once again. So all of this need to be you need to have all of this in consideration when you apply for your visa. You have to know your plan in advance. That's why I said so many times that to travel with the motorcycle, especially outside of your country, without any plans, basically is impossible, because all of these things need to be planned and predicted in advance. Otherwise, you can't make it. You'll go to the border, and that's it. They'll tell you, okay, I'm really sorry, but you don't have visa. Yeah, but I'm an adventurer. I travel without any plans. I'm really sorry, mister, but without any plans and without any visa, we cannot let you go in. Go back and send posts in your Facebook page that you're a great adventurer. I hope that you understand what I mean. Denis Kiraz, good evening. Good evening. So you definitely need to check all of these documents, prepare everything that you need many days in advance if you want to have a successful trip. Otherwise, everything will fall apart. The preparation is a very serious part of any trip, especially abroad. I'll continue later. Once you have your passport ready, once you have visa, when you decided how many days the visa will be needed or what kind of single or multi visa and all that stuff. You will need also your driver license if you want to travel by motorcycle. To be honest, I have crossed I don't know how many borders during the years that I travel, and I've been asked for driver license only twice. On the Honestly, for so many borders, I was asked only twice, but you still need to have your driver license because you might be asked in the border. So I'm not saying that you can risk to travel without any license, but theoretically you can, because maybe never anyone will never stop you to ask for your license. And as I said, I've been asked only on two borders. And I remember that only in one embassy, I think was in Pakistan, they asked me for driver license in the embassy before they even give me the visa. So you need your driver license, and the driver license need to be on the acceptable or understandable language. Should be like English, German, or at least these Latin letters. Because if it's, for example, with Cyrillic alphabet or with some kind of Asian symbols, the normal authorities, they won't be able to read it. And in this situation, you're gonna need international driver license, which is more or less like a translated edition of your driver license, and you can easily issue it in your company and have it with you. It's not necessary. I never been asked for this, but my driver license is German, and I have all of the details written on the Latin letter, so it's easy to understand it when the authorities see at borders or police on the road. So I never had any problems with this. But if your license is on Cyrillic alphabet, which is basically impossible now because all the East European countries now are part of European Union, and they have got all the documents the same as everyone. So if it's on different language, make sure that you have the international translation with you. And then you're gonna need insurance. What kind of insurance? What will it will cover? It all depends on your preferences, the country that you live, and the country that you plan to go. In many of the countries outside of Europe, you will be asked to make an additional insurance on the border. And this is just insurance about the motorcycle, and we call it here third-party insurance, the insurance that will allow you to ride your motorcycle in the country. It is not going to be a life insurance or something for health insurance or stuff like that. It will be just insurance to cross the country. These are the papers that you're gonna need. And then you have to have something else in mind. I named it here number 2, time. You'll need more time, longer than usual. So if on your usual trips you can plan 2-3 days to ride around your country, or a week to go and see many points in the country, when you decided to travel abroad, you will obviously need more time because you have to cover more kilometers to go to the other country. So you definitely need to plan more time. And this is where most of the people struggle. They just don't have time, and that's why they travel only locally. Not that this is a problem, but now because we discussed traveling abroad, you have to have this in mind that you will need more time. It will take longer than usual because you never know how much time it will take you to cross the border, what will be the condition on the other side, what kind of situations or stuff like that. So you always need to predict a little bit more time if you decided to travel abroad. And I will say, if you think that the trip is going to be 2 weeks time, make it free. Make time for 3 weeks because you don't know what will happen or how the trip will go. And also you have to have in mind the time differences, especially if you plan to travel on a different continent. There will be a big time difference. For example, from Europe to the eastern coast of the USA, the difference is like 7-8 hours. If you go on the eastern sides, let's say Asia, it will be again 7-8. If you go to Australia, 10-11 hours with Europe. So it's a big difference in the time zones. And if you have any problems at home, or if you want to talk with your people at home, or if you want to travel and work, these time differences might be a problem, and also something that you have to have in mind. If you need to apply for specific documents while you travel, but at that point in your country everyone is sleeping, you won't be able to make it. So all of this need to be, once again, put it in the general plan before you even go there, just to have all of this in mind. The next point is going to be money. It will cost you more or less, depends on the destination. If you live in the USA and you decided to travel to South America, of course it will cost you less. It will cost you less than the normal cost that you have every single day at your home. But if you live, let's say, like me in Bulgaria and decided to travel Canada next year, as I plan to do, I understand that it will cost me much more than usual. So I have to predict and prepare more money for the trip that is going on a different direction than I already have here, or different location, because of the different standards that different countries got. So you definitely need to have this in mind as well, that it might cost you more or less, depends on the destination. If you want to travel cheap, this is the first advice that I tell to people that want to have a cheap trip, is to find a better or cheaper location. If you have a cheaper location, you can have a cheaper trip. If you have expensive location, whatever you do, you cannot make it very cheap. Obvious, right? Okay, so then cards. If you decided to pay with cards, and you should have cards anyway, wherever you go, and you already have anyway. So make sure that you have at least two different systems, Visa and MasterCard, because in some countries Visa might not work, MasterCard will work. In some countries will be exactly the opposite. So it's always good idea to have at least two different cards, credit or debit, whatever works for you, whatever you have, but at least two different systems, not two Visas, then one Visa and one MasterCard. Because, as I said, in some countries, let's say MasterCard does not work, but Visa always works. So it's good to have two different systems. And of course, cash. Always cash, at least a small amount of cash. I always carry, wherever I go, I always carry at least $500 in cash as a backup option if I don't have anything else. Usually, all the money I keep in my cards. And when I go to the specific country, I can use the cash machines to draw a local currency, to have a small amount of cash in the local currency when I need it. And every time when I have the chance to pay by card, I just pay by card. This is exactly what I do on all of my trips, with one exception, and this was Russia. In Russia, because of the sanctions, I cannot use any of my Bulgarian cards that I've got. It doesn't matter Visa or Master, everything was blocked. So the only possible option to travel around Russia was to bring only cash with me. I brought cash with me in dollars. And then once I entered the country, I went to the first bank and make a Russian payment card, which is a Russian system MIR, M-I-R. And with this card, I exchanged the dollars that I've got and immediately loaded in the card. And I was able to pay by card in 90% of the locations that I was. And I was able to draw a local currency rubles from every cash machine on the road. And this is how I managed to go and travel around Russia. And this might happen in other countries, like let's say Venezuela now got a lot of sanctions. And it was more or less the same in Venezuela. The cards does not work at all in Venezuela. So the only option that we have had with my friend Plummer in Venezuela was payment by cash. So we got dollars in cash and we can exchange it for a local money. And this is how we were able to pay in cash, in dollars. So in many situations, you might not be able, but in 90% of the countries around the world, you'll be able to pay by cards. Even if you believe that it's not like that, especially on Asia now, especially if the more you go east, the faster everything develops and the card payments are almost everywhere. You'll be surprised in how many places you'll be able to pay by card. There'll be much more than, for example, in Germany. In Berlin, where I lived for almost 10 years, in many of the restaurants on the city center, you cannot pay by card. They accept only cash because they want to save taxes and stuff like that. But in Asia, cards, they go everywhere right now. Okay, this is about the money. Then we go to the weather forecast. You have to be very careful for the weather forecast in the specific country that you plan to go, for the time period that you plan to be in the country. Because if you have this or if you don't calculate it properly, the time that you plan to visit the country, you might go to one of these rainy seasons or moussons or tornado moments or something like that. So you have to be very careful in advance, to see everything in advance, to know in what period of the year you can visit the country because of the weather conditions that the country has, because it is not your country. You don't know what it is there. So you need to have this in your plans, which one you have to make in advance. So we go back to the plan that you cannot go to a foreign country without any plans, because without any plans, you can go to the rainy season and drown your motorcycle and even lose your life. I hope that you'll understand it finally, and I will stop listening people telling that if you travel without any, if you travel with plans, it is not an adventure anymore. The example that I can give you now, it's fresh example for me, was our trip to South America last year. I wanted, really wanted, and one of the reasons I went to South America was to see Venezuela and Brazil, especially Trans-Amazonica Road, this the largest equatorial jungle in the world that I wanted to cross by motorcycle. But because of the rainy season over there, if you don't go on a specific moment, you won't be able to do it. That's why for me it was very important to check the forecast in advance, and not only on the day or the month before. No, I checked the whole forecast for the whole year. I checked many of these charts that showing in which period of the year what is the level of the rain and stuff like that. And I realized that the beginning of the rainy season is around November. And I thought that if I go and maximum at the end of November, I will be there in the beginning of rainy season, and I might be lucky to cross the country. And some people might say, yeah, but why don't you go just in June or July when it's dry and you can travel with more comfort? Because I wanted to see the whole South America. And if I go in June or July in Brazil to visit this Trans-Amazonica without any problems, then I cannot go to Ushuaia because it will be a hardcore winter there. So this was the problem, because it's a big continent with many different weather conditions. You have to be very careful when you make your plans, how exactly you will do it to be able to visit every place on the specific country or continent that you plan to visit. That's why weather forecast is something priceless. Nowadays, even on the telephone, there are so many different applications to show you the weather 1 month ahead, 1 year predictions, 1 year charts, or everything. Just make sure that you spend enough time to learn it for the time period that you plan to be there, for the area that you plan to cross as well, and the whole weather forecast in general. Okay, that's everything about the weather. Then we have to talk about languages. In some countries, you might need to learn some phrases. If you come again from the USA, the UK, Australia, or New Zealand, you will speak English language. English language is more or less the universal language that everyone understands, at least partly, in many places around the world. And because of that, people who are from these countries, usually they don't care at all, and they don't need to learn any languages, because wherever they go, expect someone to speak their language. I understand, and it's partly right, but in many places around the world, you won't be able to communicate at all. One example that I can give right now is South America. If you don't understand at least a basic Spanish, it's going to be very difficult for you to travel around South America. Not impossible, thanks to the devices that we have nowadays, but very difficult. And if you know a little bit, just a little bit of basic Spanish, at least to be able to understand when people speak with you, this will be a big plus. That's why my advice, as usual, whatever country you plan to go, learn at least the basic phrases or simple things like hello, I need hotel, I need food, I need petrol, or I need a mechanic to fix my motorcycle, or where I can buy tires, or where I can eat, or simple phrases. They're not that difficult to learn, even though many people might say right now, oh, it's easy for you, Paulian, in Europe, you're very good with languages. No, we are not very good with languages. You see how difficult it is for me to speak English language, and I make a lot of mistakes, and I also cannot pronounce many of your words properly because this is not my language. It's not easy for us. It is very difficult, but we know that if we want to travel abroad, if you want to meet different countries, different people, we have to learn something, otherwise we cannot make it. This is the big difference between me, let's say, and someone from the States or from the UK. Because they know wherever they go, someone will speak their language. But with my language, Bulgarian, wherever I go, no one will speak it. I already made a few experiments here in the stream, and you know that my language is very difficult. That's why at least a basic language or basic phrases, thank you, hello, can I have this, can I have that, where I can find this, and it's like a must. Another example is Russia. If you go to Russia, fine, around St. Petersburg, Moscow, big towns, everyone will speak English. But once you go to the east and cross Ural Mountain, from Ural and further east, Forget about English, only Russian. And because it's so difficult and different from your language, you wouldn't be able to understand even a simple word. If we talk about German, French, Italian, maybe you'll got something, but on Russian or Bulgarian, you'll got zero, nothing. That's why languages are a big plus. If you plan to travel to Asia, you'll be surprised how many people speak English language, but again in big cities. Once you move into the country, nothing at all. We finish with the languages. Let's go to the next point, political situations. It's another one very important moment that requires a lot of search in advance, or a lot of information you have to find in advance because of many different problems that you might have. You might have many government restrictions that you wouldn't be able to cross the country. For example, for many Americans, will be very hard to enter Afghanistan or places like that, because it's not that they are banned, they cannot make it, but it's a little bit tricky for them to go there. Or for Israeli people to go to many Muslim countries. Let's say go now to Palestine. How that is even possible? It's not even possible right now. That's why government restrictions, specific countries restrictions. You might have a specific countries that they just won't let you to go. Just they won't let you to go. If, for example, if you go to, if I go to Ukraine now, or if I go to Russia and plan to cross the country from Russia to Ukraine, even though the border is open, do you believe that the Ukrainian guys will let me go to Russia if I to Ukraine if I coming from Russia? They just won't let me go. This was one of the reasons why, when I decided to go to Russia, I did not cross it to Ukraine, even though Ukrainian border was open, and this was the shortest way that I can enter Russia. I didn't do it not because I was afraid from something or war or something like that. No, there were no war on these sections. I can cross it easy through Kiev. But once they understand that I will go to Russia, they won't let me go on the border, or at least they will keep me for so many days just because of the conflict that they have in between. The second point was that once even if they let me and I enter Russia, they will keep me for many days and probably hours and days, because I'm coming from Ukraine. That's why I decided to go to whole Europe and enter Russia from Estonia, and this was the easiest way for me. Okay, this is what I mean, political situations. You might have conflict zones or wars, what exactly I explained you about Russia and Ukraine. Or if you decided to go to Africa, there are many conflict zones where you cannot enter because of the problems at the moment. Once again, I cannot stress it enough how important it is to make your research, to do your homework, to make your plans in advance, to understand everything, the whole situation. Otherwise, you cannot make it. Okay, let's go to the next point. Okay, what preparation does the motorcycle need? This, everything that I just told you right now was about the rider, about your personal preparation, not about the motorcycle. Everything was about your documents, your preparation, your investigations, your research, everything about you. Now we talk about the motorcycle. What preparation does the motorcycle need? First, if you travel only around Europe, you don't need much. If you're European citizen, you need only valid ID, your passport. But if you come from outside of European, if you're from Europe, you need only a valid ID and driver license, or your passport, whatever you prefer. But if you come outside of Europe, you definitely need your international passport, not only ID. Your ID is going to work only for your country. But once you go to Europe, you'll need your international passport. Driver license you definitely need to carry with you. The title of your motorcycle also you need to carry, the registration number of your motorcycle, and it should be on your name. Whatever country you plan to travel, whatever border you plan to cross, it will be always better if you have the title of your motorcycle on your name. You can make it on many borders with power of attorney, but in some borders, it is not going to be possible. The example that I can give you right now is from South America. You cannot cross South American borders with power of attorney. You definitely cannot. It might be possible in one or two countries, but they're all together 10 countries, and at least one you'll have many problems. At least it will cost you many hours, maybe days to stay there before you cross it. That's why, just to make sure to go on the, or to play safe, always have the title on your motorcycle on your name, not on your wife, not on your brother, not on your leasing company, on your name. This will be the easiest way to cross any border. Even if you travel only around Europe, it will be a good idea. Even if they don't have borders in Europe, it is still a good idea to be on your name, because you might be stopped on police on the road, and you don't know what kind of idiot you will find that will say, oh, the motorcycle is not on your name, now we have to stop it here, lock it, and bring me power of attorney or someone to declare that this motor you're allowed to ride this motorcycle. That's why when it's on your name, it's always easy. So if you travel around Europe, it's easy. You don't need any special insurance. Once you enter Europe, they will give you insurance that is named green card. You will pay for it, of course, and with the green card you can travel to every country around Europe without any problems. Now, me, like a European citizen, with the green, or with the insurance that I have in my country, it comes with the green card, which is like another an additional paper through your insurance. And with this green card, I can go to around whole Europe without the need to pay for anything else. This is what is green card. But if you come from outside of Europe, you definitely need to make a green card, and then you will be able to cross all the countries. Make sure also, when you travel around Europe, that you have a DB killer in your exhaust. This is very important, and some people might think that it's not a big problem. I can ride my motorcycle just like that. No, in Europe it's a very big problem, especially if you go to countries like Austria, Germany, Switzerland. If you don't have the DB killer in your exhaust, any motorcycle on the road might stop your motorcycle, and you wouldn't be able to move it until you fix the problem that you have. They will force you to buy a DB killer, put it, install it on your motorcycle, make a special test, and they will go. And I have seen many times on the road, police stop a motorcycle, they get out a special machine or equipment, put the microphone in the exhaust, start the engine, and see how many decibels it has. So make sure that you have the DB killer in your exhaust if you plan to go, especially around Europe, especially around western part, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, all of these countries. Make sure that you have your DB killer. And of course, everything need to be, your motorcycle need to be in very good condition. Of course, lights, indicators, stop lights, number plates, everything. The motorcycle should have at least a normal, in general, normal look. It should look like a motorcycle that is allowed to go on the road, with good tires, no oil leaks from everywhere. It shouldn't be some kind of garbage. Spice XX exhaust need to legal stamp of your country. Not of your country. The exhaust should have an Euro stamp. It's like a big letter E and another one next to it. This is like Euro stamp. If you have this Euro stamp, does mean the motorcycle is allowed to be used in Europe. This is what you have. Thanks for adding this. We're going to discuss this later. Okay. This was about Europe. Let's now talk about outside of Europe, because here is a little bit more complicated. And there are two options: temporary import declaration or carnet de passage. Temporary import declaration or carnet de passage, these are two different type of documents. They're there, but they are more or less like a visa for your motorcycle. In the first option, the temporary import declaration, you don't need to prepare anything in advance. Every time when you need to cross international border, they will ask you to fill a special declaration that is named temporary import declaration. Declaración temporal was in South America. Anyway, when you go to the border, they'll say, okay, your passport, you go, your driver license, you go, and now you need to fill this form, which is temporary import declaration. And in this form, you have to put your names, your country, your passport, everything, and then your motorcycle make, your motorcycle model, what year, how much is roughly the price, and when you plan to enter, the date you plan to enter the country, and the days that you plan to exit the country, or what border you're coming into the country, and from what border you plan to go out. You need to know all of this information to be able to fill these documents. It is free, it's not difficult, but at least it will take some time to fill these documents. And once you fill it, the authorities over there will stamp it and they will give you a copy for you and copy for them. And this temporary declaration supposed to stay always with you until you're in the country. Because if police stop you on the road, they will ask for your temporary import declaration. And these declarations actually ensure us or declare that you're not going to sell the motorcycle in the country. That's why you should have it with you. And once you leave the country, you should show them again this document. Even though they have it already in the computer system, they will want to see it in the real paper. And then they can leave you, they can let you leave the country. Without this document, you cannot leave the country, or without the motorcycle, you cannot leave the country. This basically means, or this is basically a guarantee that you won't sell the motorcycle in their country. This is what temporary import declaration is. Carnet du passage is more or less the same, but it's a little bit more complicated. And some countries require carnet du passage. These are Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, which were Iran, and a few more countries requires carnet du passage. I think was Indonesia as well. Carnet du passage serves exactly the same purpose, but you have to do it in advance in your country. So you have to go to your authorities. These are mostly like local mobile clubs like ADSC in Germany or CBA in Bulgaria. And I'm sure that in your country you have different authorities. And once you go to these authorities, you have to go with the documents of your motorcycle, and based on the price of your motorcycle, they will ask you to pay a specific deposit. The more expensive the bike is, the expensive the deposit is going to be. So, for example, a few years ago when I was making the carnet du passage for my old Tenere, the deposit that I've been asked in Germany was around 5,000 euros for the Tenere that was at that time 6-7 years old. The deposit of course is refundable, but once you return from the country. And once you've got this document, it's like a big folder. It's like a big folder this size with many pages inside. And all of these pages are basically more or less like a temporary import declaration, but issued in advance, made in advance. And every country that you visit, you'll need 2 pages. 1 page to give on the border when you go in, and another one when you get out. That means if you plan to cross 10 different countries that requires carnet du passage, you need 20 different pages. And they sell this carnet du passage on different prices. Let's say 4 pages, let's say the fee will be 200 euros. 8 pages will be 500 euros or 700 euros or whatever euros. More or less the same as a temporary import declaration, but need to be made in advance in your country. And they will give you this big folder with all of these things. You'll pay the deposit, you'll pay all the fees and taxes, and you're ready to go. And every border that you go, you just cut one of these sheets. Here you go. Now I enter the country. Here you go this. And then when you get out of the country, you'll give another. And this is how you can cross many of these countries that complicated procedure. It might be very expensive if you have expensive motorcycle. For example, if you have the latest model of BMW GS 1300, the deposit might go even more than 25,000 euros. You have to give this money to your authorities. They will keep it until you return back. This is like a government guarantee that you're not going to sell your motorcycle in one of those countries. And when you get back home, with the folders, with the left, what is the parts left from the folder, you give it to them and they will give you money back. And this might be very expensive, especially if you have very expensive motorcycle. As I told you, I've been asked for my old Tenere for 5,000 euros. Finally, I went to Bulgaria, changed the registration plate of my Tenere from German to Bulgarian, and paid altogether 500 euros to get exactly the same document. Because of the differences in the countries, the standards, and in Bulgaria, everything was possible back then. I don't know what will be the situation right now, but you should have this in mind, especially if you plan to travel to countries that requires carnet du passage. As I said, these are Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Iran, and a few more countries around the world. If you type carnet du passage requirements or countries that require carnet du passage on internet, you'll have the big list of all the countries that needed. So this is more or less about carnet du passage. Later, if you have any questions, we can clean it more with more details. Now, I told you about this. I told you about the deposit pages, price, and now, next point, shipping your motorcycle. So in many places around the world, you'll be forced to ship your motorcycle. Like I have to do it now. When I went, I had to do it when I went to South America. Luckily, the motorcycle was given to me from a Thomas German friend, and I actually skipped this step. I did not need to ship any motorcycle. But if you decide to do it, if you want to go to a different continent that hasn't got any land connection, you definitely need some kind of transportation. It will be air cargo or shipping by boat. Air cargo will be much more faster. It will be clear the time that or the arrival time will be very clear. If they tell you that you'll need 2 days, you'll need 2 days, but it will be very expensive, with some exceptions. In some places, I have heard that it will be cheaper to have an air cargo than a normal cargo with a ship. But in very rare situations, if you want to ship it by boat, by just ship, then the prices will be lower, but not that lower. For example, on my trip to South America, if I wanted to send my Tenere, the total price for return was about 3,000 euros. 3,000 euros just to ship my motorcycle to South America and take it back after 3 months. And also, I needed to bring my motorcycle to Hamburg, which was another, let's say, 500 euros at least to bring it to Hamburg. And then after 3 months, another 500 euros to take it from Hamburg and bring it back to Bulgaria. So the total price was around 4,000 euros to ship my motorcycle to South America. This is what you have to have in mind if you decided to travel on a different continent. Let's say Australia, New Zealand, South America, Africa, whatever you come from. I don't know now at the moment, but this is a price that you have to have in mind. Also, both in both options, air cargo or shipping, you will have to put your motorcycle in a wooden pallet. This basically means that you have to remove the front wheel, you have to remove the handlebar, you have to drain all oils and all liquids and petrol and stuff like that, tight everything together in wooden pallet, which means that you have to pay for this pallet as well. And only then you can send it to a specific country. Then when you receive the motorcycle in this country, you have to put everything back. You have to work with customs to pay all the taxes and all different things that are involved in all of this process. And it's a little bit complicated procedure. And I never done it, to be honest, and I don't want even to do it because, as I said, it's complicates and rise the price too much. That's why wherever I go, I prefer to have a local motorcycle. Luckily, and thanks to my channel, the motorcycles that I rode abroad were given to me as a gift, and I highly appreciate that. The people that did it are just, I cannot express my gratitude. But if you don't have this option, you have to buy a local motorcycle. And it might sound like something very complicated now, and maybe many will say, oh, this is not option at all. I prefer to ride my motorcycle. Fair enough. If you have enough money, if your budget allows you, ship your motorcycle, you definitely will feel better. But if you're on budget, if you want to travel as cheap as possible, the best option for me is just to fly there, buy a local motorcycle, use it for whatever time you plan to stay there, and then sell it. This is exactly what we did with my friend's Plummet motorcycle. We bought it in South America and sold it after that. He lost around $1,200 for the whole procedure, and he rode it for 32,000 kilometers. So basically, his South America trip, or the transport, or the motorcycle for his South American trip, cost him $1,200. And I already told you the cheapest option to ship your motorcycle was around 4,000 euros, which basically means like 3 times less than shipping. So this is, guys, everything that I wanted to share on this topic. And now, if you want to ask questions or add more information, please do it. So I'll be glad if I can help you. Let me read some comments here, because Spike, I'm from UK, probably on the travel, you say Europe, down Australia, victory seats. Okay, exhaust need to legal stamp. Yes, do we need seal checks? And Spike SS, do they do safety checks at borders, like basic road safety, tires, lights, brakes? No, I never been asked for this, never ever. They never even look at the motorcycle. Sometimes they can look around, but safety checks, never ever. This is something that You don't need to worry about it. Spikes. We have European stamps for exhaust that race to Europe just so MOT test, but different hot exhaust pass without the bottle stamps, but just no. Yeah, it's like this. In Europe, it's easy. If you have Euro stamp, it's good to go. Was looking at shipping cheaper, easy to Canada than the USA. I also have heard that it's easy to Canada and it's a little bit cheaper. And if I can find a good, affordable option, I will definitely ship my motorcycle because I really want to travel with my motorcycle in Canada. But it all depends on the budget that I'm going to have at the moment, the possibilities that I'm going to have. We'll see what my sponsors will say. And if I can find this option, wonderful, I will use it. But it's not guaranteed. If not, I will buy a local motorcycle and go with it. Tenant traveler Richard, if you're unlucky and have accident on the bike, the police will need your license, so you must carry an international license. It's very useful. My international license for Morocco costs six pence. Yes, this is a good idea actually, Richard, to have your international license. But most of these international license, as I said, they are just a copy. They might work in some countries. In some countries, they might not work. But it's a good idea to have it. Maldicella. Pavlin, what do you think about Africa Twin 750? Is still available option in 2026. This motorcycle is very old machine, very heavy, very bad suspension, not very strong engine. It has a lot of problems, and if it's the only option that you can have at the moment, go for it. It's a motorcycle. It will definitely do the job, but it's not something that I think worth any money right now. It will be much better if you buy something more simple, lighter, and just travel around. This I forgot to talk about. Thank you for adding this, Richard. Tenet Traveler. Your local phone might not work. A local SIM or the new eSIM on your smartphone will be way to go. Yeah, I forgot to talk about this. Internet's a big problem now, or telephone communications. I forgot to talk about it. So thanks for adding this, Richard. Yes, you definitely make sure that if you have eSIM, it's a perfect option. If you use a Revolut payment system, they also offer eSIM now. You just need to have the last option of your Android, the last version of the Android, and you can have this eSIM. Fantastic option. If you don't have it in every country, you have to buy a SIM card. And if you plan to change many countries like we did in South America, this will require many different SIM card changes. And usually when you buy it, they last for, let's say, a month or something, and you use it for just a few days, and you spend just so much money for nothing. Ghost Rider, Southeast Asia is way ahead of EU when it comes to online payment. It's crazy how many options they have. Just came back from Thailand. Motorcycle trip was lucky with the rain. Yeah, absolutely agree. Southeast Asia, it's way ahead from Europe and the States as well, especially about the payment. Safke, very interesting topic and presentation. Great job, Pablo. Thank you very much for coming, Safke. Yeah, I did my best to explain everything, but for such a short period of time, it's not really possible. Allosaurus B, a Euro policeman without homologated measurement tool, he can send a bike for an extra examination. Not sure if it's practice, but law allows it. Absolutely. As I told you, I have seen this happens many times around Europe. Yes, absolutely. I see this happening, and it's definitely not worth to risk to go with very loud exhaust around Europe. First, it will be a problem for you because I don't understand why some people prefer to have this loud exhaust. I prefer my exhaust to be as quiet as possible, because when you need to ride it for many days with this loud exhaust, man, your head will explode. Tenet Traveler, photocopies of all of your documents are a good idea. Thanks for adding this, Richard. I have it here. I just missed it when I was talking. Absolutely good idea to have a photocopies of all of your documents, passport, driver license, visas, all the documents that you have, especially if you have something more important like a medical diagnosis or things that's very important for you. But definitely passports, visas, everything, photocopies for everything, cost you nothing but might save your day. Ghost Rider tip: when I went to Southeast Asia motorcycle trip with my friend, he had his phone and I had my phone, and I used an old phone as a mobile hotspot that saves us 2 SIMs. You only need one. Yeah, this is a good tip. We did exactly the same in South America. We buy one SIM card and we share the hotspot for both of us. Yes, thanks for adding this. Sam Hill, be aware of local and national holidays of countries you want to travel. Border may be not open by agencies, department. You need insurances, paperwork will be closed maybe several days. Good advice. Also, always check the borders because there are many borders around the world that they have a specific working time. I know that people expect every border to work 24 hours, but they are not like that. In many countries, the borders work let's say from 9 to 5, and then it's closed to the next day. And if you go there and 5 o'clock and 5 minutes, you have to wait the whole night until they open the next day. So make sure that you find this information online, and all of this information. Once again, to go back and remind you once again that the best is to have a plan in advance. So you cannot travel without any plans because you will hit many closed doors. That's important. The plans are. Vance Marin, 8022, Air Canada does a lot of motorcycle transporting. I'll definitely check these options. If you have any websites or transportation companies that do that, please share it with me here in the chat or later maybe in the my website. I haven't researched anything yet. I still have enough time, but after New Year, I will definitely start to prepare everything and work more seriously on this topic to find a specific transportation. China traveler again, resolve any health issues before you go, especially dental ones. It can stop your trip and cost you much more money. I agree about this. I do it every time. Before every trip, I just go to the dentist to check all of my teeth, and if I have any problems, he can fix it before I go. Good advice. It's not a good idea to go with health problems on the trip, because it might cost you a lot. Some Hill, phones use only absolute the necessary apps. On the much more info is it can be liability. I agree about this. Use the apps that you really need. In many countries, it might be a problem. In some countries, might be even big problem. For example, last year when we were entering Venezuela, we were on the borders for more than 7 hours, and these border officers checked all the telephones, my telephone and my friends' telephones. They opened WhatsApp, checked all the connections, all the conversations that we've got. They basically go to the WhatsApp search bar and type words like weapons, problems, terrorism, and they were able to see what kind of conversations we've got. And if you have a conversation to one of these topics, man, it's a big problem. At least delete all the information or keep the apps only that you need. This might be a problem when you're in a foreign country. Okay. Spike SSX. For Canada, look for half containers of 6 bikes. Some specialists do the share container transfer. I think bikes were... So half container was 1,200 pounds. Each return was shipping time 8. Yeah, I have this in mind, and I will definitely try to do it because I'll go with my friend Plamen. We'll ship both motorcycles. So we'll check all options. Of course, I'll contact these companies and we'll try to find us the best as possible option. All hours, exhaust quiet as possible. Sounds perfect for a whole day riding. It will tell you why people put loud ones. Small body parts, expensive or other. Yeah, I agree about this. I like quiet exhaust. Just noticeable, but definitely not loud. Some Hill, you have to watch the entry and the exit location you travel through. Some don't do all paperwork, and that's required, and you have to go back in time for processing. Yes, it's very important. Again, part of the preparation. Check everything in advance. Check all the information online. Nowadays, it's so much easy to find everything that you need. You just need to spend enough time to look for it. Make your plans. Write down everything. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to put everything on paper just to have a clear idea where you're going, because you can make the research now, but after 3 months, you're not going to remember everything. That's why they said even a word. Stupid people remember everything. Clever people make notes for everything. Make notes. Just make sure that everything works. I usually do this on my paper maps. When I open the paper maps, when I draw the lines and my routes and everything, I also put a note. Border open from 9 to 5. Or here I can have gas station. Or here I can change tires. I put all of these notes on my paper maps. And while I write, I can see all of this information that I put it in advance. That helped me so much on the road. Okay. 8 weeks, not fixed dates. If you extend your time for the trip, better buy a bike there for sure. Yeah, absolutely agree about this. Amazing tip about apps. I cannot really tell you. I am not really app user. I don't have many apps on my telephone. I use only the most important one. One of them is for weather forecast. It's weather and radar. I really like it because based on your location, it gives you the precise weather forecast. Also give you this radar where the rain goes at the moment. But other than that, I'm not a big app user. Maybe I'm not the right person to suggest that. Someone maybe will. Okay, where we don't drink with the locals in some countries. Absolutely agree about this. Don't drink with the locals in all countries if you don't have friends there. This might bring you to many problems. Yeah, then Spike says, yeah, good exhaust so they can't hear coming. Very important for Spain. Cannot agree. If they have a loud music in the car, they won't hear you anyway. Ghost Rider, agree, don't drink in Indonesia alcohol with locals. In villages, they make their own alcohol, very dangerous. This might be also very dangerous. Another danger, but very dangerous, agree. Steve's Adventures, don't be afraid to ask the locals for help, especially if you're being scammed. Yeah, absolutely. Ask for locals, ask for help. 99% of people are great and they will like to help you. Of course, you can hit this 1%, but if you know what are you doing, if you're a careful guy, you'll be all right. Sam Hill, make a list of foreign phrases you might need. You practice them, but you need to be able to communicate with locals and reference it. List is very handy. I speak slow and listen slow, so I'm absolutely good advice. I use this many times in many countries around the world. Basically, I put all of the important questions or important phrases in a small list and keep it in my pockets. When you know the questions, let's say who, when, how, and stuff like that, it's very easy to communicate with people, even only with the questions. You might not understand everything that they tell you back, but you will have at least some idea. That's why a list of important phrases or at least questions and places like where you want to go, the names, or maybe different things like as I already told you earlier in the stream, how to find a hotel, gas station, food, and stuff like that. For example, last year before my trip to South America, I was taking language courses, not exactly a proper language courses, but I was talking with a Colombian lady on WhatsApp. So we have twice per week a WhatsApp communication with her only on the telephones, and every time we put a different topic, and I said, okay, today we're going to talk only about hotels, and the whole conversation was about hotels. We spoke only on Spanish language, and I was trying to pronounce the words properly and to understand her what we're talking about. The next lesson was only about gas stations. The next was about food. The next was about different transportation topics and stuff like that. And this is how I was able to learn at least the basics that I need exactly. If you go to a normal language course, they will start from A, B. They will try to teach you things that you don't really need. But if you go to a private course, then you can say to your teacher, I need the language that is needed for traveling. And then you can focus on road, motorcycle equipment, or tires, or oils, or petrol, and stuff like that. And you can learn very easy a lot of things. Of course, it's not going to be enough, but it will be a base that you can work on it later. And once you go to the country, when you start communicate with people every day, you will learn something. When we entered South America, I was all right to communicate. When we were exit South America, I was perfectly fine to have a normal conversation for a few hours with locals. That's why this is how fast you learn when you're on the place. Okay, Tenor Traveler, a bike which is available in your chosen destination is a good idea for servicing and spare parts. You might not find what you need or buy in Yamaha. Brilliant advice. I forgot to add this in the topic. If you decided to ship your motorcycle, this might be a problem in many countries. For example, last year in South America, if we were with our motorcycles, me and Plamen with our Teneres, of course we will be much. It's supposed to be much better because When you ride your motorcycle, you feel better, you can control better. And for this type of terrains that they've got in South America, our tenors, we have been perfect. But big but it's always, yeah, everything you say before but is shit, everything you say after but is what really matters. The tires will be 3 times more expensive, the petrol consumption will be larger, all the spare parts will be almost impossible to find over there. So you have to bring everything with you. And not only this, but also you have, if you have some kind of technical problems, it will take time before you finish it. Even if they have it at the moment, let's say you need a specific part, it will cost you much more. So all of these things might be a problem when you travel. That's why a local motorcycle, something that is produced locally, is always the best idea. Where we were, SpikeX. Well, we or just turned the roaming for my contact phone. Never had a problem, but I'm not phone addicted. The best option is to turn off the roaming. Yes, of course. I always turn off my SIM card once I go to the country. And now in South America, we bought only SIM cards for Colombia because we spent a lot of time in Colombia. Then we bought one in Venezuela, and after that we didn't buy anything at all because every night when we stop in the hotels, they have Wi-Fi. During the days, we can survive without social networks and stuff like that. And also nowadays, every place you stop, a big petrol station or small coffee on the road, they have Wi-Fi. We had Wi-Fi even in Brazil in the middle of a jungle when they have only a small house and nothing around on 200-300 kilometers. But then I actually asked, but without expecting any positive answer. I asked the lady over there, do you have Wi-Fi here? And expected, she said, no, but she said, yeah, sure. And she gave me the passport, and the Wi-Fi actually was very good. And then I saw on the top of the house, they have a Starlink satellite dish. So nowadays you can find everywhere internet, and you don't really need to worry about it unless, as you said, you're telephone addicted. Then it might be a problem. If you want to check everything, if you want to check your social networks all the time and to spend a lot of time in your telephone, then you definitely need a SIM card. Okay, Ghost Rider. Problem, thank you for the tip about the apps. I like your example about WhatsApp search bar. Yeah, no worries. Glad to help. SpikeX paper map, Saturn enough only for finding the hotel, etc. Exactly what I do. I like paper maps. As I told you, this is the best information that I can have. All actually the whole trip is on my paper maps. And satellite navigation is only when I need to find a specific address. Steve Adventures, make sure you turn off the SIM in the settings if you don't want to change by your home provider. Airplane mode, or just turn off the middle. Yes, absolutely. Do it every time. Otherwise, it will cost you a lot. Even just a few minutes will cost you a lot of money. 2 years ago, when I was in riding around Europe, I entered Andorra and actually forgot to turn off my data. I have heard sometimes that a few times that Andorra, it's not part of European Union, but somehow when I went there, I neglected this problem. And only from the border to the hotel, which was a couple of hours, my bill was about 100 levs, which is around 50 euros. And this was only from data exchange. I did not call anyone, I did not use the telephone at all, but it was only about the updates that the telephone was making, like 50 euros just for 2-3 hours. This was the roaming. So make sure that you turn off the data when you go to foreign countries. If you're in Europe, it's all clear. We don't have roaming. It's easy everywhere, but outside of Europe, it's a problem. SpikeX, yes, the Spain got 60 euro fine, but 20 mile chase for unmarked car. Was funny out, as I say, they am scared on the bandits to get my bike off money. Shit happens, you know. As ours, remember, the 95 octane benzene is being called differently in different regions of the globe, essentially petrol, gasoline, perhaps. Yeah, this is not a big problem. I never had any problems with the petrol everywhere I've been around the world, even though that in some countries the petrol was terrible, or we put it from jars or from petrol cans, like now in Venezuela and basically in many places around South America, as I did it in Central Asia many years ago. So this is not a big problem. If you worry so much about the octanes, you can always buy octane boosters, a small bottles like this, and you can add it in your petrol. But I don't think it's a big problem unless you have some very luxury motorcycle, that requires a very high octane petrol. KTMs are usually bought with this because they have a different ratio, but it's not that bad. Thank you very much for coming tonight, Richard. Thank you very much, and send regards to Lina. Good tip about disabling SIM. Yes, basic road talk is all you need. All right, guys, 1 hour and 10 minutes. I plan to end the stream here. If you have any more questions, please do it so, or we'll continue the discussion next week. I don't know. I still don't know the topic about next week, but I'm sure that will be interesting to talk about it. If you have any ideas, you can let me know now or later in the chat, and I'll prepare myself and we'll talk about it. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I hope that this information will be